Here's a problem where we have a person planning a meal that needs to meet specific nutritional goals. For example, his meal that he's preparing that consists of rice, tofu, and peanuts must provide him 246 grams of carbohydrates, carbs for short, 92 grams of fat, and 62 grams of protein. He knows that each cup of rice provides 40 grams of carbs, 0 grams of fat, and 1 gram of protein. He also looks up what each cup of tofu and peanuts provide. The question is, how many cups of each of the three types of food should he eat? Before setting up a system of equations, it may be helpful to organize the information in a table. So for example, one way to do that is to write down each of the three foods, which were rice, tofu, and finally peanuts. Then up here, I will write down how many carbohydrates each of the three foods provide, how much fat, and finally how much protein. Going back to the story, rice provided 40 grams of carbohydrates, the tofu provides 7 grams of carbohydrates, and the peanuts provided 32 grams of carbohydrates. This information alone will help me write one of the three equations needed to solve this problem. For example, it was given that the three foods must provide 246 grams of carbs. So I want to know how many cups of each of the three foods must he eat so that after eating all three foods, it will equal 264 grams. This is a good time to define some variables. I'm going to let the variable r be the number of cups of rice that the person must eat. Let the variable t be the number of cups of tofu he must eat. And finally, the variable p be the number of cups of peanuts he must eat. Doing so, I can write the first equation as follows. Each cup of rice gives him 40 grams of carbs. So to figure out how many cups he must eat, r, of the rice, we can take the fact that we get 40 grams of carbs per cup and multiply by the number of cups he will eat to get how many grams of carbs he gets just from eating the rice. Let's simplify this as just 40r. 40 grams per cup times the number of cups he eats gives me the number of grams of carbs he gets just from eating rice. If you get that 40r is indeed the correct expression to give him the number of grams of carbs that he gets from eating rice, then the rest of the problem follows in a very similar way. You simply repeat the logic and say, well, in addition to getting carbs from eating rice, he gets carbs from eating tofu. In fact, he gets 7 grams of carbs per cup that he eats times the number of cups of tofu that he does eat, which is t. And then finally argue in addition to that, he also gets so many grams of carbs from eating peanuts. In fact, he gets 32 grams per cup times p cups. And this expression would be the amount of carbs he gets from eating peanuts. Adding together the amount of carbs he gets from eating each of the three food sources has to add up to be 246 grams. Now we can just repeat using the information for the fat and the protein. The rice gives 0 grams of fat, tofu gives 10 grams of fat, and the peanuts give 72 grams of fat. Doing what we did before, except now this will represent the number of grams of fat each food source provides. We have that rice gives 0 grams per cup times r cups. Tofu gives 10 grams of fat per cup times the number of cups that he eats, which is t. And then add to that how much fat he gets from eating peanuts. He gets 72 grams of fat per cup times the number of cups of peanuts that he eats, which we define to be p. And the total amount of fat that he must get from eating those three foods has to be 92 grams. Finally, going to the protein, the rice provided 1 gram of protein. The tofu provided 15 grams of protein. And the peanuts provided 27 grams of protein. So we have the rice gives 1 gram per cup times r cups. The fat provides 15 grams of protein per cup times t cups. And in addition to those two foods, we have that the peanuts give 27 grams of protein per cup times p cups of peanuts. And adding together the amount of protein we get from those three food sources has to add up to be 62 grams of protein. So now we have three equations in three variables Now we need to solve this system to find out how many cups each of the 3 food sources he must eat to get his dietary requirements. Because this system can be solved many different ways, I will rely on a different video showing how to solve the system. Suffice it to say, solving this system using any of various methods will show that R comes out to be 5 cups of rice, T comes out to be 2 cups of tofu, and P comes out to be 1 cup of peanuts. And if you plugged those 3 values of R, T, and P into each of the equations, you would see that all 3 equations are satisfied, showing that if he eats exactly that amount of each of the food sources, he will indeed get 246 grams of carbs, 92 grams of fat, and 62 grams of protein.